Kicking off this evening with the news of the attack in Golders Green regarding the Jewish community. Obviously, some psycho with no respect for life decided to, unfortunately, attack two Jewish men with a knife. So yeah, let me get straight into this. Let me try and get into this one. The UK government has announced £25 million of funding for the Jewish community after the Golders Green attack. Okay, a further 25 million will be invested to increase security for Jewish communities after the suspected terror attack in North London, the government has said. Interesting. And interesting, it's been said to be a terror attack. Obviously, I see it's one man doing this. So, terror attack, that's subject to debate. Okay? Moving it on. There's quite a few things to look at here. But basically, these plans were announced after Wednesday's events. And also, it's said that they follow on from a number of events, where the Jewish community have been targeted. For example, last October, 2 people and an attacker were unalived after a man drove at a synagogue in the northern English city of Manchester, as we know. Okay? And, there's a lot of attacks on this community online. A lot of videos circulating like memes. They've been approached, and so forth. I get that. Interestingly, it's been said by an independent reviewer of legislation regarding terrorism. That would be a Mr. Jonathan Hall. That he sees these attacks as becoming the biggest national security emergency since 2007, where apparently there was a high string of attacks. But let me go straight into this. With what I believe. Okay, just to round it off, police across the country have stepped up their patrols in response to the attack on 2 Jewish men, that be Salman Rand and Moshe Ben Balia, who actually were taken to hospital after being attacked in Golders Green. And what we have there is a picture of the guy, that did it. Interestingly, to me, the earlier picture of the guy and this picture is 2 different things, okay? So many of you would have seen the picture of the guy from the side, walking with something in his hand. That's one picture. And the other picture is the guy's headshot. So the first picture, the guy looks fatter and bigger. But hey, that's another conversation, okay? That's another conversation, okay? A lot's been said about the police's reaction to that and how they handled this, okay? The police, I've seen the video where the guy's on the floor and the police are actually kicking him in his head, yeah? Obviously an attempt, they say, to get the item out of his hand, all right? Now, again, some people are coming out and saying it's extreme, okay? I think it was the Green Party leader. What's his name now? How can it leave me? Yeah, but the Green Party leader was saying that it's extreme, okay? My view, a police officer kicking a guy in his head, in this instance, yeah, is an exception to the rule, simply because he's carrying something, okay? Now, some will say they're doing that to obviously make him pay, whatever. I say whatever. I mean, the man's attacking people with a bladed item, for goodness sake. So there's two sides to the coin. Yes, the police may have some hatred when they're doing that and carrying out other grievances, yeah, or doing it in an extreme way to make a point. But ultimately, it cuts both ways because the guy assaulted two people with a blade. So, yeah, being fair as can be, okay? So technically, in a way, I could slightly be giving the police a pass here. But anyway, yeah. But as a consequence of this, a high number of the Jewish community, it's been reported, are considering leaving the UK as a response of this, okay? Now, apparently it's come out that the guy was Muslim, whatever, and they too get a lot of flack in this country, as it were, okay? And they too come under attack, okay? But with regards to the Jewish community leaving, it may be that some from the UK British government, maybe a method to keep them there, maybe there to appease them, and so forth, okay? We go into that in a bit. But the Jewish community, they're established here. Yeah, regardless of what people do, whether they're disliked or liked, they're established. And as I've said before in a previous video, yeah, this is my own opinion, okay? Similarly to the Muslim community, I respect them because they built up their own communities. They invest in themselves. Yeah, they have their own code. They have codes. They have solidarity, and they have culture. Okay. Similarly, they're very similar to the Muslim community in that regard. Okay, and it's been said that the Muslim community don't mix. Okay, that's a myth. Okay, because I can argue. Same people that's been saying that. I'm not saying that about the Jewish community, who I can argue are less integrated to a lesser extent. And people know this. They're known for keeping themselves to themselves in particular. Is there anything wrong with that? No, not in my opinion. Okay? And the fact is, interestingly, the government and the media don't have an eye on that. But they do have an eye on the Muslim community who they believe don't integrate. Make that make sense? Okay? But hey, I'm just simply being arbitrary and being dead in the center with what I'm saying. Okay? Fair's fair. But ultimately, I do not agree that they should be attacked simply because of how they appear and how they appear to be. I don't agree with that. Okay? Ultimately, if we go into history, the real problem regarding the Arab-Israeli conflict, in my opinion, goes back to the Balfour Declaration in 1948, where the Britain allocated that plot of land, to the Jewish people, and then from there, things moved on from there. But ultimately, it falls in the hands of the British government. And I've got a few other ideas regarding that, but I don't want to go off on tangent. Okay? So really and truly, they get themselves to themselves, they do their thing, and I have no problem with that. Okay? In fact, in a way, it's funny. There's a bit of a contradiction here from the UK government and the UK media, in the sense that if you integrate too much, as we see with the black community, if you integrate, then you don't have a sense of being. Okay, you don't have that core base. You don't have a core base of capital. You don't invest in yourself. Okay, and the money goes out of your community. We know this. Okay, whereas with these two particular communities, they build themselves up. Again, as I said, their own code. But yet, interestingly, it's like, how can I put this? The reality is they get themselves to themselves, whereas Afro-Caribbean community have, in a way, over-integrated, it could be argued. Especially when it could be argued that 50% of Afro-Caribbean men date out their community. Okay? But people say the Muslim community don't mix. And it's been argued on a street level that the Jewish community don't mix. But then again, they're looking out for their own interests, right? The same way I could argue the upper echelons of society don't mix. They mix within themselves, don't they? The upper English people, upper class English people mix between themselves. Okay, we know this. In fact, in reality, it's only a very, 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 very small number of English people, Caucasian English people, that actually date interracially. You think about it, okay? But interesting on the other side of the coin, those that do aren't exactly dating Afro-Caribbean people, but the highest number of interracial couplings are English and Asian. That's a fact. Now you're going to come at me and say you're being hypocritical because you said earlier that Asians don't mix. No, because they forget the Asian community that would actually, let's say, Indian people that do assimilate with English people are a very, very, very small minority in the community as well. Okay? And to go even further and take even deeper than that, I'm actually using just this one method of assimilation to prove my point. Okay? Because obviously there's other ways to measure how communities integrate. But hey, I was going on a big wide tangent. But going back to what I'm saying here, yeah. We said the Jewish community are going to leave. I don't think they will. They're too entrenched in this country, and also they are a very powerful lobby. Okay, it's actually been argued by the left and the right that this particular community, in effect, run the country. Okay, that's how dominant they are. Is it true? Could be, because the English government do overcompensate and appease this community, which I have no problem with, by the way. Okay? Because again, we look at historically where they're coming from. Yeah? I've said this before. Because of their history, what they've been through, especially in, Germany. We all know about Nazi Germany. They use that as a crutch to develop their community. Yeah? Now, the Afro-Caribbean community didn't do that. They didn't use their oppression as a crutch. In fact, they went the other way, another conversation. But this is where I give the Jewish people respect, because they build their community up, use it as a crutch, and they move forward. Okay? Simple as that. So yeah. Yeah. This whole event though in itself, again, yeah, has got people jumping on the bandwagon, okay? People like Tommy Robinson coming at the Muslim community, saying this guy's Somalian, he shouldn't be here, and so forth. A lot of attacks have been done from all different groups, but from all different kinds of people. Okay? Don't forget, there was that Caucasian guy that did the thing in Finsbury Park with the mosque. Okay? I didn't hear Tommy Robinson then. Okay? So let's just stop being selective. Let's grow up. Okay? Is it Daniel Copeland or David Copeland who bombed Admiral Duncan and the gay community some years back in Soho? Okay? Same thing. Okay? Afro-Caribbean community. Stephen Lawrence. Anthony Walker. That mug, the footballer. His cousin. Joey Barton. Okay? So there, let's move it on. Are the gay community being given £25 million? I haven't seen that yet. Have the Muslim community being given £25 million? I haven't seen that yet. Have the black community being given £25 million? I haven't seen that yet. So if we're going to pay a large sum for the security and protection of one community, we must do it for all. Is that a fair comment? Is that not a fair comment? It's a fair comment. And with Tommy Robinson, he's already said that, he chooses Israel over England, okay? And it's more than likely, as many have said, that he's a Mossad agent. That's what they're saying, okay? Now, whether he is or not, I don't know. I don't care. But if we are going to be handing out large sums of money to communities, I believe in it being equal, okay? There's nothing wrong in what I've said, okay? Simple as that. Okay. Now, interestingly, regarding that £25 million, let me say this. Okay. I've been around the community for quite a while. Okay. Now, what I do know is, yeah, to wrap it up, because this video's gone for quite a while. Okay. They have their own. Listen, I think they've got their own protection. You know, they do. They've got their own security. I mean, because I've actually spoken to one of the guys. Actually, this was when I was last there visiting someone. They've got their own protection, their own security. I think they've got their own police even. Yeah. Okay. They are a proper. Listen, they've got their own thing going on. Okay. So you know, in terms of protection, yeah, they technically could be one of the most protected groups anyway. So some people are saying there's a question mark regarding that £25 million. I'm going to say what I said just now and said earlier. Yes, give it to them. But if we're going to give it to this community, and they've already got protections already, but hey, another conversation. And there's no fault in that, by the way. But they're getting £25 million. They give it to the Afro-Caribbean community, especially after the Windrush scandal. Okay, give it to the Muslim community, and so forth. That have all experienced some form of terrorism and attack over the last number of years in recent times. Okay? It is what it is. Let me wrap this one up. Okay then, later.